It is about that time again, that time of the week, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We got an hour to go. This is You, Me, and BTC episode 246. I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with
Tim Baker.
this is your Liberty and Bitcoin podcast, the best podcast every Thursday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern about Bitcoin with me on it. It literally is. No question about it. We are going to have some fun tonight making fun of Tether, making fun of researchers, making fun of Bitcoin a little bit. Sure, why not? And making fun of Apple, making fun of miners, both kinds of miners, maybe. I don't know. We're going to have fun. Yeah, it's all coming up. I would like to thank our wonderful sponsor who has made our shows, literally made them possible for weeks. It is chronologic.network. They work on Ethereum and they are developing all kinds. They call it temporal innovation. If you don't know what temporal means, it's just time-related innovation. So fancy stuff like an Ethereum alarm clock. That sounds pretty cool. That's related to time. That's innovation. That's what chronologic.network does. They're also pretty proud of their debt smart contracts, so you could check them out. All of it is on Ethereum. They also have ways to smooth out, what might be a good term to use. They can smooth out token launches with their time-related innovation. Instead of having everyone try to cram in and buy these tokens in the first 300 milliseconds, they can use time innovation on Ethereum to smooth that out. Check them out, chronologic.network. They literally make our show possible. Tim, what do you know about Tether? I'm fairly certain that you've never actually gotten involved with them, but do you know much about them? And that's a good thing. I'm glad you
if
have
somebody wait. Thank you, Daniel. I do have Daniel's seal of approval for that, I guess. I wouldn't have remembered it. I just looked it up. Like, I've heard of it before. I knew there was something like this, but if someone just on the street was like, "Hey, you know Bitcoin, you know Tether," I'd be like, "I don't fucking know. Look it up on Google." But it's basically just like it's cryptocurrency, or it's just a maybe even like a digital. It's called a digital currency. I don't know if that is any kind of a difference. If it's even.
yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it did that. I was thinking that just like 30 seconds ago. It's a digital currency, not really a cryptocurrency. I am totally okay with that nomenclature, because I was thinking we could do half the show about how they're not really a cryptocurrency. So
Well, yeah, again, I don't know. So you can definitely bring that up and explain more like the details. But just my assumption is like it's a digital currency that's just pegged to the US dollar. So I would think that it's mostly used to I don't even know what it would most, I guess, to just take money out of Bitcoin, or I don't know why you do that. Or
yeah.
is it just used as like kind of like a reference point to look at
So
stuff?
the reason it came about was because so many exchanges were having banking troubles. Like, they couldn't get people to accept their transactions. They couldn't get banks to help them out. So they just, all right, fine, we'll just make our own dollar that lives on a blockchain. So I don't need a bank. And, you can kind of appreciate that attempt. I mean, it sounds great. Go for it. But it doesn't work that way. I remember saying years ago, actually, it's funny. Cryptolina, it's a conference. I think it's happening like as we speak, maybe this weekend. This was probably 3-4 years ago at Cryptolina. I was approached by some people asking me about gold and putting gold on the blockchain. And my response was, I've said this a couple times on the show, but my response was, as soon as you have to connect the blockchain with something physical, there's trust there. Like, you have to trust that someone actually has that gold that is represented by that whatever gold token, gold coin, whatever. You have to trust that that gold actually exists somewhere. And it's a hard thing to do. I mean, there there's use cases for it. Like if you actually do trust a company, then sure, like yeah, it would be nice to be able to transfer gold on the blockchain. So I guess fine, try it out, trust them, just know that you're trusting them. And it's the exact same thing here. The exact same thing with dollars. You have to trust that they have those dollars. And there has been a ton of controversy about that. We don't have to get into all the details. They did audits and supposedly, you know, official professional audits. And one of the first links on their website is, hey, click here to see proof of funds. Yeah, but is that really proof if you just put up a web page on your website that says we were audited? Yeah, really? So, yeah, that's why I wouldn't call it a cryptocurrency. Yes, the token might live on a blockchain. Yes, it might involve proof of work or proof of stake or whatever. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily backed, which means it doesn't necessarily have value. And there's a ton of debate about that, which we could have fun of. We could make fun of if we want. I will. Oh, let's do it. Like,
Yeah.
do we really? I'll pose that to you, Tim. Do you actually think that they are backed? That they really have the money that's supposedly backing these tethers?
Probably not all of it. I don't know why. Like they're like, we're going to be a bank and follow all the rules that you should probably follow with a bank, but somehow it's going to work for us. Like as a bank or as a store of value, it is. I completely understand like fractional reserve banking and being like, I'm not going to keep all your shit here. I need to actually make money on this. Like if you have it, yeah, because I'm looking at their proof and it's just like, oh, here's a memorandum, and there was consulting services performed by Friedman LLP accountants and advisors. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I guess I could technically trust you, but it's like,
right. I don't know them personally, but presumably they have a reputation. Presumably they audit all kinds of companies and they've never had an issue. So maybe they did get some kind of completely legitimate audit. And maybe the key with an audit is if you just put it on your website and say, oh, this really important, reputable person or company audited us, well, that's hard to believe. But if they put it on their website, okay, well, if you trust that person and they're saying it, then yeah, maybe they did audit you. And again, I have no idea what this company is. I have no idea how trustworthy they are. I'm sure there's a ton of stories that people could tell me in the chat. Feel free to do that. But the point is, like, they have to have some kind of legitimacy to have made it this far, to be where they're printing tethers and selling them for $1 each. Like, okay, like I don't know if they're fully backed. I'm certainly not going to say that they are. In fact, I will go ahead and say that my opinion is that they very likely are not backed. But you got to ask the question, like, well, what's going on here? How are there so many people out there with so many tethers buying and selling Bitcoin as if those tethers were dollars? I don't know. So before we move on and keep asking questions, I want to do two quick things. First of all, I might drop an apology. I might have sent 2 push notifications for tonight's episode. If you're not subscribed, you can click the little red icon on our website and get push notifications when we go live or put out a good article or something. I clicked the button and I never got the notification, so I clicked the button again. So if you got 2 notifications, I'm sorry. And then I was going to say, on that note, the place you need to be tonight, like if you saw the notification, the place you would be clicking to is youmeandbtc.com/live. That's where you can jump in the chat. Let us know what you know about Tether, if you trust them. And there's a poll at the very bottom also about Tether, whether or not you would trust them. So, Tim, that was my take. I'm willing to say that my opinion is very strongly that they're not fully backed. Like, why would they be? But I have to wonder, like, where is this legitimacy coming from? How have they been around for so long? So with that said, I'll put the same question to you. Like, what do you think? Are they backed? Likely, unlikely?
well, I am looking at the Glassdoor reviews for Friedman and the guys who apparently audited them. I
Look at
can't
this.
find
Him
anything
doing
there.
real research. I'm sitting back, like I said last week. Holy,
Well,
I figured out I can just lean back, so I am not doing any research right now.
just give me 5 seconds and I'll explain to you how, but
All right.
so I'm looking all this stuff up. They look like the people are, yeah, this is great. I can't really find anything necessarily on if they are fraudulent or not. People are like, oh, they're good. They try to balance a work and life environment or whatever the fuck or something. But then I looked up where they're located, and they only have offices in Philadelphia, Newark, and New York. So I don't know. I just don't know how much I can trust anybody from those
Uh,
places.
well, that's the thing.
Eastern
Like,
Financial's pretty fucked up. Like we don't really give a shit about maybe fudging numbers a little bit. At least it seems like. Not no.
okay, I'll agree with that. Like, obviously, Wall Street has this reputation for just being a joke, and they're all scammers. They all just want to get rich, whatever. But don't that's still way better than say if they had like offices located in Russia or in like Panama. It's like, okay, really? Right? I mean, wouldn't you trust, as much as you might hate Philadelphia, wouldn't you trust that more than some like Russian auditing firm that may or may not exist?
Maybe. I mean, it's. I don't think they just do audit just because they're accountants and advise. Well, yeah, never mind. That's exactly what they do. Um, I don't know. I just don't like my whole thing with this has nothing to do necessarily with them being maybe necessarily like corrupt. Like an international one wouldn't bother me. It's just I'd never find like when it because they are kind like they I think they report to the state or what do they do? Do you have any idea what people like this do? And I should know more about this because I'm pretty sure my cousin does this and I've had conversations with him about this. But do you know what they do? Say if they find something, they say this is going to be a problem. Do they have to
Yeah.
report that to anybody, or do they like if you just
I don't know
there's
if
going to
it's so much. I'm sure there's different agreements. So in some situations, yeah, maybe there is some legal it depends on like the industry and what the problem is. In some situations, sure, they have a legal obligation to report that to the authorities or and say, hey, they're doing something wrong here and deal with it from there. In other situations, maybe they'll just say publicly, like, hey, or not so much publicly, but like they'll say to this company's investors that, hey, this is our audit report. This is what we found. So we're then
okay
it's still probably a legal obligation. They have to provide that report to the
this is
investors.
public or
And
okay
maybe in
just
some situations they provide it to the general public. And then there's plenty of situations I know as well where they don't make it public, but they do tell the company. Like they're trying to help out the company and say, "Hey, we noticed this is happening here. You might be losing money here. This is how we think you can do better." That's where the advisory part comes in. But that the point is it depends on the agreement. There's a lot of different ways that they could reveal issues that come up in an audit.
you said something. Do you know are most of these companies like you have to get one of them, right? If you're going to run a certain kind of business,
Yeah, I mean, if you're a public business or,
like you can't just
probably
say,
some,
"Oh
like I
no,
said,
I'll
certain
just go."
industries.
You're forced to have it though. Like you can't just be, "I'm just going to go to the IRS." I'm just making sure that before I say what I say.
Wait, what do you mean go to the IRS?
Like you're required to have one of these companies on. Like you're required to pay them so they kind of
Yeah,
keep like a
like
watchdog on you.
annually. I would guess most of the time it's annually they get
Yeah,
audited.
yeah.
Like colleges or like hospitals, like any kind of like public type of industry.
Okay. Yeah, like
They're gonna,
semi-public, but okay.
yeah, they're
Okay.
gonna need
That
some kind of auditing.
that's what I because part of my mistrust of all this, besides just the I kind of just assume anybody on the internet's trying to steal shit from me. The is any job where you are like legally bound to do your job. I never trust them as much as a
Okay,
private
fair.
thing. I think that's from legitimate interactions. I believe that is, but I definitely have a certain uh bent to go that way anyway. I just tend to like it just seems like even if you're not like an actual government employee, if your job is legally required,
Yeah, I
you're
think
gonna
of
kind
that
of fuck
all the
off.
time. I think of that all the time when I think of car insurance, where
Yeah, yeah.
everyone is required to get car insurance. So it's like, what do they care what the price is? They'll just jack them up because everyone has to buy car insurance. So I think of that all the time.
It's either that or it's the ones where they're like, yeah, you pay us like 500 for the year, and then you might get a little like $5 back if you get just like, yeah, I just need to pay for this shit. I don't even need, like, if I crash and everything, I'm gonna have to pay for it all anyway. I'm doing this so I don't get fucking thrown in jail whenever I get pulled over. I don't have
exactly.
Oh, well, I'm allowed to do this because, you see, if I get in an accident, I can pay for it. But because this would be a huge issue if you required people to have to pay for things, because then no one would do it if you didn't have the police running around. But yeah, that's just me ranting.
I agree with all of that. It whenever anything is required, no matter how good you might think car insurance is, as soon as it's required, it messes up the whole market. But one thing that's probably worth mentioning here is, at least in theory, Tether, they don't have to audit Tether. It's not a hospital. It's not a public college. They are doing this voluntarily, kind of like auditors, even like official. They call them the big four auditing firms, like national, international companies, gigantic companies that do completely normal auditing for all kinds of companies. They will also audit things like I don't know exactly which ones, but like the Emmy Awards. They'll audit those. They'll keep track of the votes for all the Emmy nominations or Grammy nominations or whatever, and they will personally watch over it. They'll audit it. And so their word, because they're reputable companies, they're saying, yes, we counted these votes. Yes, this is the actual Grammy winner. It sounds weird, but they do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on here. No one's requiring anyone to audit the Emmys, but they do to try to look more legitimate. And that's what Tether's doing. They're not required to audit Tether, at least not in theory. Maybe the SEC would say otherwise. But in theory, Tether can do whatever the heck it wants. But they're like, hey, we're going to get audited anyway because we want people to trust us. They want people to think that we're worth $1 each. So I don't know.
I mean, it almost seems like, why wouldn't you just have the money anyway? But again, I just don't have the...
Well, it's billions, at least millions, maybe billions of dollars. Do you just have that money anyway?
I mean, who's doing it too? That's it's just like
Bitfinex. Bitfinex is the exchange that issues Tethers. So the news here, all of this, everything we've talked about to this point is kind of years old commentary, or at least a year or so.
It's not new.
Right. The news is that there was some, I put in the title of the show, in quotes, official research on this topic, which just came out actually just yesterday. Today is June 14th, and this paper is dated June 13th. And it is out of a couple of guys, a professor and a student from the University of Texas, I believe. Doesn't really matter. But they did research on the Tether blockchain and on, the Bitcoin price charts and everything, and determined, at least theoretically, it looked like whenever the Bitcoin price was dipping, it looked like the Tether, they would print more Tethers, and the Tether transaction volume might increase, and then the price would go back up. So that's the theory. That's what they're arguing. It looks like Tether, and again, people have said this for a year, but this is just research that might actually show it if you trust papers like this. But it looked like Tether was being used to prop up the Bitcoin price intentionally, very intentionally. Whenever it started to dip, they would prop it up. So I'll go ahead and read the abstract here. It's a 66-page paper. So please do not read this whole thing. I don't want to hear from you if you do, but the abstract is a good enough place to start. I don't care. Read it if you want. I'm not going to do anything. Abstract, quote, "This paper investigates whether Tether, a digital currency pegged to US dollars, influences Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency prices during the recent boom. Using algorithms to analyze the blockchain data, we find that purchases with Tether are timed following market downturns and result in sizable increases in Bitcoin prices. So that's what I just said. The Tether activity is timed during downturns in order to boost the price, theoretically. Back to the quote. Less than 1% of hours with such heavy Tether transactions are associated with 50% of the meteoric rise in Bitcoin and 64% of other top cryptocurrencies. The flow clusters below round prices, introduces asymmetric autocorrelations in Bitcoin, and suggests incomplete Tether backing before month ends. These patterns cannot be explained by investor demand proxies, but are most consistent with the supply-based hypothesis where Tether is used to provide price support and manipulate cryptocurrency prices. There were a lot of big words there. I'm not following every bit of the sentence structure here, but I can grasp that in general, there's a lot of Tether activity when the price went up, or when it was dipping, and then it helped boost it. The number they say here is that it's associated with 50% of the meteoric rise in Bitcoin. That's also, they mentioned that in a New York Times article where this is, obviously more generalized, for, reduced to more simple terms compared to the 66-page paper. I'll go ahead and share this on my screen if you want to see it or read a little bit or whatever. But I want to mention that 50% number because that came up also in this New York Times article, because that's a lot of money, sure, like 50%, especially if you're counting all the way to 19,000. All right, so let's say in 2017, it started at roughly 1,000. But just to be conservative, let's say it started at 2,000. All right, we'll be conservative. We'll say it didn't rise as much. Maybe that's backwards. Maybe that's the wrong kind of conservative. Whatever. The point is, it started at like 1,000, 2,000, and it went all the way up to 19,000. If 50% of that, Tim, is fake, okay, fine. Then instead of going up $17,000, let's just say it goes up 8,500. So it goes from 1,000 to 9,500. That is still a huge rise. That's what I want to get out of the way here, based on this 50% number. Like, what in the heck? So what if 50%? Okay, now I'm looking like an idiot. There's tons of people out there that are like, I don't care if it's a fraction of the price rise. It's a fake price rise, and that's not right.
How this is, I mean, one of the things I'll just disagree with right at the beginning of it is just because I don't care if what the fuck do you mean by this isn't real? Like, everything is manipulated. Like, there's nothing that is in a bubble and just rises from nothing. Like, we need to get rid of all kinds of attempts to make things increase in value. Like, what? Why is that? Anyway, also, if it's, this may be me not understanding what they're meaning, but if 50% of the time it was caught, like, you can't have, at least it doesn't make sense to me that, it got to 90, was like where the 50% at the beginning where they just kind of like spaced throughout. But it's like, yeah, that's still like you can't take away from later gains that whatever might have not happened whenever Tether was being used a lot. And you can't then say that, oh, well, Tether bumped it up like $500 before that, and then it went up by 3,000. You can't, like, Tether isn't responsible for all of that, but at the same time, it is, just because it's in that chain. But it's not like, oh, they strategically were able to figure out exactly whenever they needed to just hit it. Because I mean, if they did it, it's all fucked up now, and the correction has already happened. This is the problem.
Well, I don't think you really have to time it. Your timing doesn't much matter. I mean, yes, they did time it. The abstract here said that they did it right below round numbers. So if it dipped below 9,000 even, they might have pumped money into it. They also said, what else did they say here? Below round prices. Oh, and something about month ends. incomplete Tether backing before month ends. So they did time it, but I don't care. Like whether they timed it or not, like if you dump money into an asset, you're dumping money into an asset. It's going to make the price go up. So I don't care about the timing. They threw a bunch of money at it, and that was that. The price went up. And yes, I would agree with you that those gains have been erased by now. And so what that says is Bitcoin is fine. And it is. Like even if you take today's really low price, okay, so we're at 6,500, something like that today. Even if you say that, even today, half of that's coming from Tether, and you knock off half the gains from the beginning of last year, where it was like 2,000. So knock off half those gains, you get about 4,000. Even if Bitcoin only went from 2,000 to 4,000 in the past year and a half, that's still incredible gains. So I do want to make the point very strongly here that Bitcoin is fine. Like, yeah, this kind of messed it up. This is definitely manipulation. I don't want to pretend like it's all roses and daisies. Like, yeah, they screwed it. They screwed up the market, and that's something we have to grapple with in all markets, gold market, stock market, whatever. There are people manipulating, and you have to figure out how to navigate that. So that's one thing I want to say is no matter how you put it, even no matter which 50% you're talking about might have come from Tether, Bitcoin, even if you knock off half the price today, it still has done incredibly well in the past year and a half. So that's the first thing. But I also said in my show notes tonight, one of the first things I said is we would like to think that Bitcoin is perfectly pure and clean or whatever, something like that. A lot of people are like that. A lot of people will defend Bitcoin like none other. I don't even know what to say. They'll just, no matter how you attack Bitcoin, they will come up with something, or not just Bitcoin, anything, obviously. You know these kind of people, these kind of subjects. Same thing with the free market. People will day in and day out defend the free market. And I don't care how right the free market is. These people just come up with all these crazy arguments that they don't understand. And hypotheticals, a lot of those, like, well, yeah, but if we didn't regulate this one thing, then everyone would be rich. Like, really? Really? If we didn't regulate taxi drivers, would everyone be rich? And anyway, so the point is they do the same thing.
I see what you mean a lot, because again, we've definitely said it before, and I'll let you finish. Just go and you can finish.
Well, I guess all I want to say is I love Bitcoin. I do indeed think it's totally fine. It's going to continue. The price is going to continue to go up. I'm not an expert. I'm not a financial advisor. I do indeed believe that Bitcoin is totally fine. But I just want to say, I don't want to sound like this total whitewasher, total idealist, total, perfection. Every Bitcoin will solve all of our problems every day ever. Blockchain is going to make it possible to feed people in Africa. Like, yeah, that could happen. We might get there, but all I'm trying to say is I do believe Bitcoin is fine, but I'm going to try not to be one of those guys that's going to be like, well, it's the free market. So, yep, they printed tethers and it helped out the market. No, that's definitely a bad thing. I'm not going to say government's the answer either. I'm not going to ask them to how did I say it in the show notes? How do we proceed in a market that we cannot trust? Should we just give up on Bitcoin and turn to the old government officials to stabilize everything for us? No, of course not. I'm not going to turn to the government evil either. Freudian slip there. But I believe Bitcoin's fine. I'm not going to turn to the government to solve these market issues, but this is definitely a market issue. Those are the three things that I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem, Daniel, is in this situation. I'm not saying you always do this, but in this situation, you're being a realist about things. And that is accepting that maybe your favorite thing, maybe the thing you think is great, still has stuff fucked up about it and still because we don't live in a perfect. 'Cause you were saying how everyone just defends everything now. Like if you are going to say you're a libertarian or an anarcho-capitalist, or on the other side, anarcho-socialist, anything like that, you have to just be like, yeah, no, like, yeah, it's definitely like once we're all allowed to have fully automatic guns, no one will kill each other because
Yeah,
we're all just
exactly. That's
happy.
a
I'm like, yes,
perfect
people,
example.
yeah, it's
What I was trying to say, where people defend this like so freaking much, like everyone should have nukes. I sure I believe that, but like that's not the solution to the human condition.
I haven't heard people like I've heard people be like, yeah, I mean, like you can have a nuke, and if you were gonna ask me, I don't have that much of a problem with that. But it is mostly just with like guns or, like, oh well, we'll just get rid of police officers and we'll have private security forces. Which again, I'm like, yeah, I like the idea
Yeah,
better, but you don't think they're gonna fuck over some? Like, you can't tell me it's gonna be a perfect world, and that's the problem with all this stuff.
like the people on the same note, the people that are they're so pro Second Amendment, they're just like, oh hey, let's arm the teachers. Let's give all the teachers guns and nobody will ever get shot. Oh yeah, because teachers, they all have great aim. I bet you're right.
Yeah, no, I'm just, and teachers are just such a great just organization of people that we need to give them. And their unions are gonna be like, well, we need to pay them 30 grand more a year because they're now security officers as well.
Yeah, those are good examples. I'm glad we randomly came up with those because I did not have any prepared. But those are good examples of exactly what I was saying, where people just get so overzealous. And they, like I said, hypotheticals is what I said a minute ago. And that's exactly what it's like. If we arm the teachers, everything will be fine. That is an absolute hypothetical. You have no evidence for that because the teachers have never been armed. So I love guns. I want you to have guns. I want to have guns. But you can't just go off on this hypothetical and say, if this, then everything will be fine, because we don't know.
I'm pretty sure this is how it just always has been in politics. I don't know if this is how it has always been with the general like people, but definitely online. And it people just go with whatever is, like, you just have to be full in on it. And like I actually kind of do believe this in like whenever you're talking to people, you do have to kind of not build yourself up, but you present yourself in the best possible way just because you want people to like you. So like whenever you're presenting an argument, you stray away. Like, it's not good to you say you have somebody who like comes up, so explain to me what's so good about being a libertarian, or what's so good about, what do you think in like a stateless society? Because we just like to argue now, and that's most of what the internet is. And it's memes which are just like,
yeah,
you're dumb and I drew a picture of you and you're stupid, look at you.
yeah, the percentage for like a solid 3 days, I bet you a solid 50% of more of news articles anywhere were about Roseanne's freaking tweet. Like, like for half the news for 3 days. I'm probably exaggerating a bit, but that's what happens. We were joking about that just a few weeks ago, how all the news is like, did you see what this guy tweeted? Did you see what they tweeted? Should they be working in the movie business? And oh geez.
Yeah, no, because all the people making the movies are just such great things, because now we have such a good control over all those, the wonderful people like to tell us their political opinions all the time.
So we definitely got a little off track here, but if you've been around for 246 episodes, you know that we just relax. We talk about whatever. If you haven't been around for 246 episodes, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We are you, me, and BTC. And this is exactly what we mean when we say liberty and Bitcoin and liberty. It goes both ways. I flip it around, whatever. Because yeah, we start with Bitcoin. We'll talk about Bitcoin stories, but then we get into whatever, and liberty-oriented stuff, freedom stuff, free market, guns we mention here and there, philosophy, a lot of philosophy and ideas. That's largely Tim's area. He also has a show on the YMB network called Tim's 2 Cents. It comes out every Monday. He's one of the most consistent shows that we have. So check him out. It's amazing. But anyway, we've been off track a little bit, but I think we covered this pretty well. This is what's going on. They researched this, and it seems like, and we didn't even mention Mount Gox. Like this, we already know this happened with Mount Gox. just totally fake money. Like Mt. Gox made up an account that said, oh, this account has $100,000. Of course it does. And then they spend that $100,000 on Bitcoin. And obviously they can't pay out all of that, but they don't have to pay it out because people store their money in Mt. Gox. So that, and it's the exact same thing. We've seen it before. And I'll just stick with what I said. Yes, it's definitely a market issue. It's a problem. It's a false signal. And I don't know how to deal with that. I don't know what the answer is to make those false signals less of a problem. I don't know what the answer is to get the truth when people are lying to you. I do not know. But at the same time, I totally believe Bitcoin is fine, because that's all it is. Like this whole complicated financial situation, it's no different. It's just someone lying to you. It's just someone saying, yep, I bought, or he bought Bitcoin, or she bought Bitcoin, or he has dollars, or she has dollars. It's just a lie. That's all it is. It's a market signal that is false. It's that simple. And I don't know how to deal with lies in the market or anywhere else. A lie is a lie, and you just got to try and detect it. And if you don't detect it, you're wrong, and you're wrong.
Yeah, this is why, and I again, this is the whole reason why we got the whole central banking system that we have, and that the rest of the world kind of picked up too, was being afraid of this, which, like you were saying before, you don't want to run to the government, because even however bad this could be, whatever damage they could do to something, you would still rather that than like the kind of just like death grip that they get on an economy, where there's like, we're just going to keep it always good, or like we're keeping it as stable as possible, and then all you have is these drops, and you have like little, like there's obviously bumps up, but it's kind of like, as soon as there's a bump up, you just have more like overhead that then comes on top of that. If Tether puts more and more money into Bitcoin, it's just something kind of fucking with the economy. It's not something that says it's going to control the economy, keep it from going up or down too much. And then as soon as it does go up, like it goes down and they get more control, because they say, oh, we need to fix this. And then if it goes up, they get more control, because then they go, oh, well, now we have all this more money. So it's like
Trump, he's been saying for months, like, oh, I fixed the stock market's way up. It's great, isn't it? Yeah. But that's a good point. I think you're saying, like, we, at least with Bitcoin, at least with Tether, and we were saying last week, like, what if they put on Coke cans, like, hey, this could kill you. You never know. At least people know that with Bitcoin and with Tether. People constantly say, like, it's not regulated. We have no idea. It's brand new technology. We have no idea where this is going. At least you know that with Bitcoin and with crypto, blockchain, Tether, whatever. But just like you said, if they have a death grip on it, they're going to tell you over and over and over, we got this. It's stable. We are regulating it. It's fine. And it's not. It's not at all. So I like that point. It's never fine.
Yeah, well, it's like, you look at the Federal Reserve or any of that stuff. It's like, yeah, you're not even allowed to audit it. Like the one guy who you're not even like,
got this totally fine.
Like some people don't even, like, most people, if you say something like abolish the Fed, like how Ron Paul, like he wrote the book thing, Jesus. He wrote that, like most people would be like, that's a little bit much. Like, I think like nobody likes them, but most people wouldn't be, but then like most people can get behind, hey, maybe we should go check and see what they're doing. But they're like, no, we're a private company. Shut the fuck up. I'm like, that's never stopped anything before. Like they go around and audit private companies all the time. So if you are actually this, but yeah, I'm much more worried about a system fucking me than I am about a singular person. Not to say it happens less, but it's worse for you to have an entire system fucking you over than to just have one guy.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a group of people, if you have, it's just you're against everything. Then if it's an entire system that is forcing you to do something or is harming you. Yeah,
I agree. We got a chat message from REB. If anyone else wants to jump in the chat, it's you, me, and btc.com/live. But he says, big money doesn't use debit cards to buy Tether, or they don't use they don't use debit cards, credit cards, or checking accounts to buy crypto. They send 200 million to Tether directly. Tether then prints 200 million tethers, and then they use the tethers to buy crypto. Which, yeah, that's the theory. I mean, that's what they argue is it's, banking is hard in this industry, so just send us money, we'll send you tethers, and then you can buy and sell crypto more freely on a blockchain. Because that's, dollars are hard to move, but Tether is supposed to be a cryptocurrency that is supposed to be easy to move. That's the theory. Then we also got NY Cartoons joining us just now. Thanks for joining us. We have had some fun tonight, making fun of a lot of things as promised, making fun of crypto, making fun of Tether, making fun of exchanges, making fun of researchers, making fun of news agencies, making fun of tweets, making fun of people making fun of tweets. So anyway, thanks for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, literally a quick break, 30 seconds, and we're back. And we're going to jump into Apple and their godly oversight into how we should live our lives. So we'll be back momentarily. Hey guys, today's show is brought to you by Chronologic.network. Chronologic is an Ethereum-based project that aims to solve time-related problems on the blockchain. Through Chronologic's 3 core products, the Ethereum alarm clock, debt smart contracts, and the day token minting mechanism, they solve the problems of payment scheduling, crypto loan time constraints, and unstable token launches. Find out more at Chronologic.network. Alrighty, once again, that's you, me, and btc.com/live. If you want to jump in the chat, read some show notes, click some links to the stuff we're covering, and most importantly, vote in the poll at the bottom. How long have you assumed Bitfinex and Tether were propping up Bitcoin? Months? Have you just assumed that for months? Have you just assumed that for years, maybe? I think the first Tether transaction, I looked it up, I believe it was sometime in 2015. So yeah, maybe for years you've known that that's just a joke. Maybe you never assumed that it was a joke. Maybe you do think it's legitimate. Or maybe you'd like to bit Myfinex, and that's an option too. So, all right, Tim, if you don't trust Tether, if you don't trust the death grip of the government, do you trust Apple?
No.
No, Tim doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't trust me.
I mean, that's completely fine. I think that's a good way to go through life. Like, you can trust people to a certain extent, but I'm not going to be like, yeah, no, Daniel, shoot something off the top of my head or anything. Like, I just don't trust him that much. Apple, again, I don't like how much people, like just random people, you never get a virus on there. You just they never give away your information. Like, it is, again, the whole thing of like the people who just like try to sell. Like, I don't like people selling me on things in conversation. I'm like, I don't care. They're like, oh yeah, you should watch this new television show. It's great. And I'm like, fuck off. But that's also just because I just don't enjoy conversation. Like, that's people are trying to be friendly with me, and I'm like, why are you talking? No, but I trust them probably more than I trust Tether, just because they have been around. But I just don't particularly like them, mostly because of most of the people who use them, and kind of just, I don't like that style of stuff. Like, I don't like Apple and like the kind of like hip companies.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't like them. It's not appealing to me normally. And I don't think that's me just being like,
I agree. I've said that for ages. I hate the fanboy.
Yeah.
The fanboy is what I call it. I don't like when people are just like, just like addicted to this one thing. No matter how obvious it is that they might be going in the wrong direction, that their phones are now considered crap across the board. Not really, but they don't. It's just so obvious how they don't compare to other phones or whatever. They haven't updated the MacBook in years. No matter how obvious it is that they're going in the wrong direction, they're addicted to it, and they're fanboys. They're stuck to it, and it's the best thing they could ever imagine.
It's people.
I'm not saying
go.
I'm not saying Apple, everything is bad about Apple. I'm just saying when you're addicted to something and you're not paying attention to what they're doing, like you're not paying attention to anything. You're not thinking.
It's people, it's this reaction, and this is also in like politics or anything where you're talking to people, and if you have a different opinion, whether it's again like a different political opinion or just like, oh, I just don't like Apple or I have a phone, people are like, what? How can you even I'm like, there's obviously like if Apple is not just killing the market and has everything, then they're obviously not that much better. Like people be like, you just don't even understand. Like like I mean, John's even said something a few times where he's just like, oh yeah, no, it's just like way better. I'm like, then why doesn't everybody just buy those then? Like I know $1,300 for a notebook isn't that great. Like it should be good. I'm like, I've just never had one. I've never, like I said, I've never liked that kind of style that they sell. And I've like heard other people talk, and I'm sure Jobs, like I appreciate him more than I appreciate the company, because I appreciate his ability to just kind of like, oh, we're gonna make the packaging nice, and people are feeling like they take a fucking MacBook out and it's not even like it's not necessarily, it's not just a digital thing. This is a new part of like, oh, this is cool, it's sleek, design, and everything is now. But I think Apple started that. So I appreciate his conning people, or not conning people, but like his ability to tap into whatever people wanted.
So yeah, we're not huge Apple fans. We're definitely not Apple fanboy fans. And we'll get into the actual news here a little more in a moment. I just do want to do a quick shout out to also James Bond we got in the chat. He says, did Tim move out of his mom's house? No, probably not yet. I don't think so.
Take me back.
NY Cartoon says, sweet shirt, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you. It was just kind of a thing today. Everyone was supposed to wear a Hawaiian shirt, and I'm a sheeple, so I did it. But I actually have several Hawaiian shirts because I do love them. So I don't get to wear them often, so I like it when I can. And then James Bond probably wants me to take my shirt off. I don't know.
No, he didn't. So quit trying to solicit people online. There's definitely a legal precedent here for all this. No, he's asking. Yeah, no. I actually still. Actually, James. My mother has my Bitcoin and she won't give it to me. So that's the issue right now. Daniel is now living in the lap of luxury by himself. Well, no, he has a few roommates. But he has place for pictures, and he can now lean back in his chair, which is something we ever dream of, if we could have it possible like that. That was on a 4-legged chair, so that was even, never mind. I'm rambling, but I'm very skilled at this whole.
James Bond asked, since Tim didn't explain his comment there, James was asking, did Daniel get his own place? It's a nice question. Nice question. He also said he always thought Tether was fishy, and I agree. I agree. Anyway, back to Apple. So the actual news here, they banned Bitcoin mining from the App Store. Any app that does actual mining on the phone, or not just Bitcoin, crypto. You couldn't really mine Bitcoin because of all the ASICs that would compete with you. But some of these other cryptos, you can mine a little bit on a normal everyday CPU, phone, whatever. And they say, no, you can't do it, at least not in the App Store, because of damage to the phone, possibly. That's what some people theorize. And they do. What happened is they released some new App Store guidelines, a whole set of them, not just for crypto stuff. But there were some, it's not like they just totally banned Bitcoin altogether. Like they do let you have wallets. They do let you facilitate ICOs from the App Store. They will still let you do mining. Like you can control your mining rig from your iPhone. Or if you do cloud mining, you can control that from your iPhone. But you can't do actual mining on the iPhone. Like you can connect to your servers and control them or whatever, but you can't do actual mining on the iPhone. You also can't run ads that do mining, which is a little harder to monitor because the ads are not built into the app. The ads are fetched. They're different. Every time the app loads, the ads are different. So Apple can't monitor all of that, but you are supposed to avoid running crypto mining apps, which, okay, like that's fine, I guess. Like I kind of get their argument that if you are mining on your phone, especially if it's what's the word? Not malicious, covert. If it's covertly, if there's an app that's not telling you that it's mining, okay, I don't want to ban anything, but if I was going to ban things, that would be one of the things to ban. Like, yeah, okay, please don't try to mine on my phone without telling me, especially if you're going to keep the money. Like, all right, let's not have that. That I understand. But they don't even allow it, even if they tell you, even if it's an app for mining, even if you're like, oh, I think I want to mine some Monero because I want to support Monero. I want to make a little bit of money. I'll just, I have this old phone. Yeah, let's go ahead and mine some Monero. Install this random app. Nope, not allowed. That I'm not as okay with. But my point is, they didn't just completely bash all things crypto. You can still have wallets. You can still control your cloud mining. You can still do ICOs if you're into that kind of thing. And I do kind of understand their concerns. If the mining really does take a toll on your hardware. They don't want people to do a ton of mining and then call up their support, be like, my phone's not working, especially if it's still under warranty. Then Apple's really screwed. Maybe that's the only thing they're worried about here. Actually, I'd be willing to say that that's fairly likely, where they don't want their phones to be damaged because they're still under warranty. And so they're like, okay, let's not have mining because the phones are going to crap out in 6 months then. I think there's a lot of, I think that's a pretty good possibility for what's going on here. I don't know. Would you agree, Tim? Does it make it any better that they allow all this other stuff still and they only banned mining directly on the phone?
I'm sorry, repeat. I was looking up the Domino's bullshit, whatever it is. But I'm sorry.
That was an interesting story. I didn't read it, but I saw the headline and I was kind of fascinated. The only reason I didn't click it is because I wanted to click it. Isn't that's a problem with?
Yeah, no, that's exactly why I haven't done it yet. Because I'm just like, no, don't look at it. All these
I'm not falling for this.
Yeah, I know you guys are gonna get me. But repeat what you said about what was.
They still allow wallets. They still allow ICOs if you're into that kind of thing. Does it make it any better that they only banned mining directly on the device? Like, is it okay because are they legitimately just trying to protect their devices and prevent them from crapping out in 6 months instead of 8 months? Is that okay then? If
I wasn't going to think about that. I was going to say just because they don't want to have to deal with the hassle of like in the future having to regulate it more with like their products being used for mining. That I would think that'd be a possibility. That would make sense then too, what you're saying about them just like putting the product through that. Not that it seems like most Apple phones really ever last that long anyway. Like every single person I've known who has had one. Now, I mean, Android's starting to do this too, but they'll send out that new update and then things kind of fucked. But that is definitely something I've heard as far as never mind. I guess that wouldn't really even have anything to do with this because most people aren't going to be mining on their phones. Does it make it better? I guess yeah. Like at least like you're letting people use it. I'd be interested as to why exactly, if they had like a personal problem with it, or if they just didn't want to risk it in the future, depending on how laws goes. Because people don't know yet, and I would think I don't know about these laws. Like if it's something that gets implemented, then are they then responsible for like records back to however many years past what they would normally keep records for? Although I think any big company is gonna.
I would doubt, like anything's possible, but I would doubt that regulation is a huge concern here. Because once they sell the phone, like they're not responsible. Fortunately, we still have that freedom in America. If you sell a phone and someone does something bad with it, you're generally not responsible. Even something way more obnoxious, like selling a gun, like the gun manufacturers are not, taken to court every time someone gets shot. Sometimes, maybe depending on the situation, if they shouldn't have sold them a gun, whatever. But I doubt Apple's like, oh, the government might come after us if people mine on the phone. I don't think that's a huge issue for them. I do think I'll take them a little bit at their word. I do think that they probably are just, if people mine, our phones are going to crap out, and we don't want that. I think that's probably the concern here. But yeah, anything's possible. People are stupid, so maybe they are worried about regulation.
I think it's probably just legally covering their ass. I don't really see why they would particularly pick on mining over top of that. As much as I would like to pick on Apple, it doesn't. I don't normally look at companies and go, oh, they're doing this out of spite. Like, obviously, sometimes it can happen. I think I have a vague memory of someone who we had on as a guest telling us that they knew somebody at the head of, or talked to somebody who knew somebody at the head of like Google, or like, this was a couple of years ago, who just didn't like the idea of cryptocurrency in general, was kind of like blocking it from stuff. Not to say it was necessarily Google. I'm just like a company, a big one.
Yeah.
Normally I don't assume they're making judgments on stuff like that. They're mostly just doing it for the bottom line. Like, that's their whole point of existing, is to make money. So I would normally assume it has something to do with either, like you said, keeping their machines running a little bit more, keeping the public image of their machines being okay up more, and then just legal problems in the future, legal problems whenever. Like, that would be why they would do it. I wouldn't get mad at Apple and be like, they're trying to exclude the bank, they're part of the new world order, and they're trying to run the one world currency.
I'm totally fine if you want to get mad at Apple. Like, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I think I understand their concern here to a certain extent. And on top of it all, the biggest thing is, like, you are not going to make that much money mining on your phone. That's the biggest thing. Just don't even, you are going to crap out your phone. Like, even if you only knock 1 month off the light, say average is like 2 years for a phone, knock off 1 month, that's like 4%. So 4% of $1,000 phone is like $40. If you could mine for 2 years straight on your phone, and you're not going to make $40. So that was a lot of math. Hopefully I did some of it right. But the point is, I highly, highly, highly doubt that mining on your phone is actually going to pay off. And the worst part is you don't even know. Like, when your phone craps out a month earlier than it would have, you don't really know. You don't really think of, like, oh, well, it could have lasted longer. Like, no, you don't know why it crapped out. It could have been anything. So you lose money without even realizing it. Like, your phone craps out, but you don't really blame the crypto. It may be, unless you're really, really cognitive of what all you're doing. Anyway, that's.
I mean, if you're that cognitive, why are you doing it on your phone?
Exactly. So I'm not excusing Apple. I don't really see a reason for them to ban this, but I understand their concerns. It is time, that part of the show where Tim and Dan come out and share some advice of the week. So what do we got, Tim? Anything good? We covered a lot, like I said, a lot of making fun of people. We covered some official research about Tether being, how, strategically used to prop up Bitcoin when the price was dipping. And we made fun of Apple too. So, any advice for us, Tim?
Don't trust people, and
gosh, I literally, word for word, that's what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, that means we were both trying to go for a cop out, but
probably
just don't. I think I've talked before about, like, learn something new. Just look at the opposite side of what somebody says about something you strongly believe in. And I don't mean, like, get rid of everything you care about, but at least look at the other side. At least look at where it can be fucking funny or silly, or just realize that you probably have some issues with that. Which means listen to my show, because I'll do all your thinking for you, because you need somebody to do it.
I was just about to compliment you for making a comment like that without plugging your show. And so I was going to plug your show for you out of respect.
That would have made me look better, but unfortunately I decided to run my stupid mouth.
But yeah, seriously, check out Tim's 2 cents. It's all of our shows are still at you, me, and btc.com. one of these days I'm going to find time to have a network-wide website. So it's not just a Bitcoin website that has some other shows on it, but building a website takes time. We'll get there. But in the meantime, again, it's all four of our shows are at meandbtc.com. The Coin Pod is there as well. That's with Zach Vol, who hasn't joined us for a few weeks, so screw him. Just kidding. And also Unpopular Opinions. They've only had 2 episodes so far, but then they went on vacation. They are planning to come back, I believe, next week. So with 5 days, is that till Wednesday? Whatever, 6 days. They're coming back next week. Look out for Unpopular Opinions. We have James Bond in the chat says, I think that shirt makes Daniel's head look small. I guess I see what you mean. Tim said it makes me look fat, so that's kind of saying the same thing, I guess. And yeah, sure. I still love the shirt, so be it.
No, fat cat. Like you're one of the guys manipulating the markets with Tether, but it's like a crypto.
Maybe I am. Maybe that's why I'm here. Maybe that's why I spent half the show trying to convince you, like, oh, there has to be some legitimacy to it. Like, how'd they get so far?
Guys, let's just look at this rationally. Let's not jump to conclusions.
My advice, I'll just stick with what you said, what I was going to say. And maybe I even said this last week because we were joking about the Coke can where anything could kill you. Like, it really could. So don't trust anyone ever. Trust is the worst thing on the planet. Never get in a car because you have to trust that everyone else is going to drive on the other side of the road. So don't do it. Don't trust anyone ever. Don't ever walk inside a building because it could collapse on you. You can't trust that the builders did it right. Don't ever use a computer because it could electrocute you because there's electricity and stuff, and maybe they did it wrong. So that's my advice of the week. Never trust anyone ever. Don't trust Tether. Don't trust blockchain. Don't trust Bitcoin because Bitcoin could have issues in it and the price could go down. Never, ever, ever, ever. Don't trust me. If there's one thing you take away from this show, just please, for the love of God, do not trust me. All right. It's been a blast as always. Thanks for joining us, James Bond, NY Cartoons, and REB in the chat. Anyone else, feel free to hit us up on Twitter at @YouMeAndBTC. That's probably the best place. You can also email me, Daniel@YouMeAndBTC.com. Drop a comment on YouTube, on the website, on SoundCloud, wherever the heck you are. Drop a comment if you want to have any thoughts, questions, or comments, and we will read it and maybe like it or maybe not. This has been episode 246. I have been Daniel Brown, and I have been here with...
I've been Tim Baker here with Daniel Brown, and thank you guys.
All right, we'll see you next Thursday, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern, and as always, check out all of our other wonderful shows on the YMB network. Peace out, guys. We love you.